We have weeds that are here. We see them in our garden. We see them in our lawns. We see them in the cracks of concrete on sidewalk and driveways and gravel drives. So let's kind of look at this a little bit and see what really the truth is about it. What is horticulture vinegar? It is not your normal table cooking vinegar. The cooking vinegar, as you can see here, I've got it circled in red. It's a 5% acidity, and that is what is being used when we actually use distilled white vinegar in some of our cooking, or if we're making pickles or other types of food that requires something along in this line. Actually, what vinegar is an acetic acid. And ethanoic acid is also interchangeable with this as well. If it is stronger than a cooking vinegar, for example, 10 to 20% vinegar, then it's going to be considered a horticulture vinegar. We also need to take note that if the carton or the container says that it is less than 8% vinegar, it is not considered to be any type of horticulture vinegar. So it's got to be 8% or higher. And if it is that, it has to be registered with the EPA because it's then considered a dangerous type of an entity that can be used around plants. And so therefore it must be registered with the Environmental Protection Agency. So how does the vinegar actually work? It affects the cell membranes. And what it really does is it takes that cell membrane and it kind of destroys it so that it loses its moisture and desiccation of that foliage is actually going to occur. It's best to use it when there is bright sunlight. Here in Colombia, I see no clouds in the sky. It's totally blue. So it actually is good to do it when the sun is out and it's a bright sunlight. Also, the results are going to be pretty quick with the dieback of those plants. The thing we have to remember with the horticulture vinegar is that it actually is non-selective. So wherever that horticultural vinegar lands, it is going to affect the growth of whatever plant it touches in some capacity. It is generally used as a foliar spray, so you need to think and remember about that. It's best on annual broadleaf weeds. It does require a surfactant. So a surfactant is another type of a product that is added to some of the different herbicides that allows that liquid to actually stay attached or have surface touching and stay in place with the leaves or the stems of that particular herbicide. So a surfactant with horticultural vinegar is going to be best. Otherwise, it's just really going to run off of that plant. So some other things that we need to look at then is that what are some of the pros and cons of horticulture vinegar? So a good pro is that it's really good on especially our small annual broadleaf weeds. If we use it on any kind of a grass, it will burn the grass. So you just be aware if you're looking at it and trying to do some weeds that might be in a lawn area, it is going to burn the grass and probably kill it as well. It does have the rapid rate kill of about 90% within a 24-hour period. So it's pretty rapid. It breaks down very quickly in the environment, which is good. And then it's also good for weeds in the gravel, a patio, the sidewalk, the driveway. And I had some weeds at my old house that were coming across between the driveway and the street. So that would have been a good location for me to use horticulture vinegar. So what are some of the cons? We have to remember that it's non-selective, so you have to be careful with how you put it onto the plants. The weeds must be small, and that kept in the literature I was reading, the research, that has to be a small plant. 2 weeks from germination is the best time to go ahead and apply this. The roots are not killed. It's only the top growth. And so you may have to do a lot of repeat applications as you continue to watch this. It does drift like any other type of herbicide. So if there's any kind of wind, you need to be careful and not use and spray horticultural vinegar when there is wind for potential drift. Because it's an acid, we have to take careful with how we apply it as well. So any kind of equipment that we might use to put the spray in, anything that might be around in your garden area that's aluminum, tin, iron fencing, lawn furniture, garden decorations, masonry of any kind, will have some sort of an effect from that horticulture vinegar. It will do some slight damage to some of it and even some more to some of the other types of the hardscapes that you might have around there. You can reapply it every 2 weeks because remember, again, they do like it when the seedlings are very small. If there is a rain event in your location, it's best to wait 24 to 28 hours after the rain in order to apply this for it to actually, using that surfactant, for it to stay onto the plant and to be effective. Some other things that we need to take into consideration is that this is an herbicide. And so just like any other type of an herbicide, there should be some sort of a label with cautions on it. And sometimes they really are good, and sometimes they may not be as good as they could be. So things that you need to be aware of is that a severe eye irritation is possible. And sometimes, depending upon if you really get a lot of splash into your eyes, it can cause some irreversible damage. So you need to be careful and wear goggles to protect those eyes. If it is greater than 10% acetic acid, it can burn the skin. And this is a picture of one of our pesticide safety folks from campus here, and that is a horticultural vinegar burn. So you have to make sure that you're using gloves, be appropriate PPE in order to use horticulture vinegar. Because remember, it is an herbicide. Skin irritations can occur. There could be allergic sensitization to it. Prolonged exposure can cause dermatitis, chronic bronchitis. And I don't get this one because they didn't go into a lot of detail, but erosion of teeth. And I'm not sure how that would happen. Hopefully no one's going to put this in their mouth. But I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of this, that just because it says it's organic doesn't always mean it's safe. It just means that it's not made from synthetic chemicals, that it is naturally occurring. And so just as regular synthetic chemicals, we do have to make sure that we're careful with how we actually use them for our own protection, as well as for the protection of other plants in the area. So here's some pictures that I just grabbed from the internet. This one, I'm not promoting any one of these horticultural vinegars. They're just examples. So here's one that has an 8% vinegar. Here's one with 20%, another with 20%, and it comes in a container with a spray, which is really nice. And then look at this one, 45% vinegar. And so that's kind of alarming to me that we have such a high percentage of vinegar that people actually can purchase and go ahead and use. It can be pretty potent there. Notice on a label, all of these should have some sort of a label that's going to tell you the percent of the acetic acid that's in it. It's also going to provide a caution and a danger. And so definitely look to see if there's any kind of suggestions on the PPE so that you can protect yourself. So here is a supplemental information. So this was actually a sheet. It was not on the actual container itself, but it was an additional sheet. It talks about what is the pH of the vinegar. This particular one that I pulled off has a pH of 2.2. That's very low. And if we look at what is the car battery, the acid in a car battery, the pH of that is 0 to 3. So some of our horticultural vinegar is actually more dangerous, or potentially more dangerous than the acid that we see in our car battery. But if you look at this, it will tell you what it's made with. This particular one has a yucca extract that uses it as a surfactant. It gives you some additional information here. This one is saying that it's not OMRI, Organic Materials Review Institute, which is the agency that will say if it can be certified organic. It does give you the warning here that it has to be registered with an EPA, and it's giving you here the actual numbers from the EPA, so you know that this has been official as a horticultural vinegar. It gives you use caution, rubber gloves and goggles when handling, use on a calm day to prevent drift, and definitely rinse equipment, any type of a metal, and the area, especially if there's masonry that's been spread, to prevent any kind of etching into that material.